Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dogco Secrets podcast. My name is Michelle Klein. I am your host, and I am also the founder of Dogco Launch, where pet care companies come to grow and scale. Today, we are going to muse a little bit together on some things that I feel I got wrong coming into 2026. So these are actually some newer musings on my end, because I've done a little bit of reflection on this year so far. It's been a wild year. I cannot believe that we are only 4 months into the year. I guess we were on the 5th month, but this year has felt like a complete time warp. And so I've already done some reflecting. I did a podcast episode maybe back in March on like quarter 1. And the insights just keep coming as they do in seasons where we are growing a lot. And I feel this is a season. I don't know if I've ever had a season where I've grown as much as I feel like I have in the last 4 months. Maybe not even grown, like seen the growth arc, like seen it. I feel like I'm in the messy middle a little bit, but seeing the trajectory, seeing both the gap, but also the final destination and where we're headed, and leaned into it. It's exciting. It's just been an interesting year. So I want to pull back the curtain a little bit and share just some reflections on 4 assumptions, you could say, that I made coming into this year that I either don't feel were correct or I feel like should have been on my radar and weren't. So let's get into it. The first thing that I feel I missed coming into the start of the year. If you're a new listener, I'll give you like the TLDR, very, very quick history. I started Dogco Launch just as a solo coach mid-2023. I was on my own 2024, and then I had one full-time person 2025. We redid the Dogco Launch business model coming into 2026, and our team jumped really quickly to about 20 people. And what I didn't realize at the time, that maybe I should have, but I didn't, is that transition in my business required an identity shift on my end of who I saw myself to the business as. Because for the last 3 years, I've been head coach. I have the title CEO, but I've really been like the head coach, main facilitator, content bringer, educator, the only one inside of the company. And this year, I needed to make a shift to being like CEO leader, still providing coaching and education and expertise, but also helping form that in other people and then helping distill that across the entire business and really bigger focus on leading people. I feel like because I didn't intentionally make that shift coming into the year, I've been playing catch up a little bit, treating the business like I'm kind of in the weeds, in the hustle with it, rather than stepping outside to be like, okay, my job is to focus on the business, not just in it, to use language that we use in our industry a lot. So that shift is happening, but I think in an ideal world, that is work I would have been doing in Q4 of last year to really prepare myself coming into this year. And instead, I feel like it took a little bit of like, shoot, I now see this. I have to kind of pause and rework some things. So in an ideal world, I think that was maybe an assumption, maybe just a miss coming into this year on my part, was an identity shift relative to the business that I needed to make. I'm making it now, and it's not too late. We are still young in the year overall. We're about a third of the way done, but that's probably my first and biggest lesson that I've been realizing for the past couple of weeks. I really need to step into the role of leader, not just collaborator. I can still collaborate as a leader. I need to assume that full identity. Okay, the next one is pretty tactical. I realized a couple weeks ago that in terms of my coaching and my strategies that I have been honing in for our industry for the last several years, this year I don't know if anyone really could have anticipated this, but either way, it was a miss. AEO and AI are really screwing with organic visibility and SEO. So it's been really interesting. I have some companies that are really benefiting from that. Like they had a really strong community presence across social media, across Reddit, across a lot of the different things that AEO cares more about. And so all of a sudden they've had this huge influx of leads. They've been a little unsure where they're coming from. I've had other companies who have relied heavily on visibility from a strong SEO ranking and have just done very well with organic visibility online on Google who are struggling with lead flow. I think there were enough things that happened through the first third of this year that everyone kind of like made the best assumption, like, oh, maybe that's the economy. Maybe it's the partial government shutdown. Maybe that's, the fact that as a country, we kind of went to war really quickly. Like, not to make this political, but, it has been not a calm first 3-4 months of the year. While those things may be true, I also think there was a subcurrent and is a subcurrent happening that how you get discovered as a business has changed really rapidly. And that change was probably almost certainly happening last year. And, I'd be interested actually to have somebody on the podcast to talk to them about this because it could be this theory is something I have concocted in my head. I don't think it is, though. Something feels like it really came to a head in the first 4 months of this year with how businesses get discovered online with organic SEO ranking, specifically with local small service-based businesses. I don't know. I don't know that I could have approached that differently from a strategic perspective because I am a big believer of like, you get the data, you see what's happening, then you go and course correct. Like if we try and just proactively determine like things that are going to happen in the market and we're kind of operating outside of reality, it's not helpful. We spend a bunch of money, we burn through a lot of energy. But at the same time, I feel that I could have been a bit more forward thinking as a coach and leader in our industry and at least be asking more questions. Actually, that's the takeaway that I want to solidify on. Not that I could have brought more solutions, but I think I could have been asking better questions earlier on in the year that would have exposed this maybe was more of a core issue. Then I realized it was. And this one to me, in hindsight, like, duh, like I feel a little silly. And also, like, I just feel like things are changing so rapidly. It just is what it is. That is the world. So that's the second thing coming into this year that I feel like was either a bit of a miss or a bit of an assumption on my end is that lead flow shifts were due to market disruption, a bunch of different factors rather than like core digital infrastructure is changing. And I feel like it's becoming more and more clear that is actually the case. So I still do not have perfect solutions to that. I am not an AEO expert, but it's on my radar. That is something that we need more insight on, both in Dogco and our industry broadly, in order to find the way forward because we're in a different world. And that's okay. We will adjust. So the third thing I got wrong coming into 2026. So this one is just purely personal and I've learned the lessons and I will do things differently next year. If you take like a 30,000 foot view of the year for me and you look at just purely how many trips I had planned, it makes sense. The number of trips to the year, it comes out to 1 a month, maybe 1.5 a month. A lot of travel for some people. For me, that's a sustainable number. The problem, though, is for me, 70% of that travel was crammed in the first 5 months. So I am the type of person that really likes to like hard sprint, hard stop. I have been like that pretty much since I was born. Like I like to go really, really hard at things I'm doing. Then I like to take a hard reset. Truly, like I spent 5 years growing my pet care business pretty much at a dead sprint. Did the last year kind of testing from behind the scenes with a GM in place so that I could sell it. Then I took a 6-month road trip cross country. Like that's the type of like balance that I like to have. And so I think I assumed that that model would work well for me this year to have so much of the travel out of the way by the time I hit the mid-year point. And who knows, maybe I will feel this way in June. We'll see. I really actually should come back and listen to this episode because it's been a really draining 4 months, travel specifically. Michelle, this is you from the past. Future Michelle, please listen to me. Side note, I don't know if you guys do that, but I do record videos of myself talking to future me when I know it's a decision that I'm probably going to go back on. Anyways, I thought if I crammed 70% of travel into the first 4 months of the year, that would enable the last 2/3 of the year to really have a lot of space to plan, prep, anticipate everything coming in 2027. Because Dogco kind of works on 1-year cycles. And don't get me wrong, I do think I will benefit the second half of the year from the way the travel aligned. But next year, I'm going to have to be a lot more thoughtful about what the first quarter looks like. This year, we made it through. There were times where I was pretty clear if I got sick, I was going to drop on commitments. I don't like being in that place. That was a lot of it too close to the line for me. So that is something I'm going to have to change next year. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to add in more travel in the second half of the year next year, but I am going to be thoughtful to not cram a lot of really key things into the first quarter and to leave a lot more space. So as an example, this year, I had a week-long trip to California in January and then a week-long trip to Arizona at the very beginning of February. Your girl now has a no travel until February 15th. January 1st to February 15th, that is go time for everything Dogco launching. That is not Michelle doing any other type of work travel because it was a really just big lift to the start of the year. So I should have spaced out travel, just been much more intentional with it. In hindsight, these were all things that I wanted to say yes to. I'm glad I said yes to them. But some of them I had in my control on when they happened, and they should have happened later in the year. So now we know. All right. And then the fourth one is again on the tactical side. And I'm hoping that this will be helpful for companies listening in when you are thinking about your sales cycle, especially if you do any type of promotion or event, something where you want to call in a lot of attention really, really quickly to something you're trying to promote. The natural cycle of Dogco is that when we come into the start of January through Q3 and Q4, I'm promoting heavily. I'm marketing a lot. I'm doing a lot of content. I'm doing a lot of webinars, really focused on my podcast on YouTube because I'm trying to build up for us getting people into Dogco to go into the upcoming year. And I've done that model for 2 or 3 years and it's worked really well. And then the year starts and I kind of vanish into Dogco for 4 or 5 months. Then I come back online. Not that I haven't been present, but I really haven't been doing a ton of content. I've been putting out the podcast. I just haven't been focused on doing a ton out in the industry because I want to focus on all the clients I'm starting with. And while that works from a programmatic standpoint, what I didn't realize is how critical it was that I was still marketing through Q1 for selling summit tickets. The summit is going swimmingly. We have maybe 200-ish people in the room between tickets and vendors and speakers and sponsors. But that's not our target. We want to create more impact than that. We want to reach more people than that. And we still have a good bit of time. I'm realizing because I have not been doing a lot of organic audience building in the last 4 or 5 months, really, I'm marketing to the same people over and over again. And they already know about the summit. You know, for them, it's really going to come down to, can I arrange this with my business? Like it's more like on their side, less on like, what is this new thing to the industry? And I've realized that even though the main thing that I market with Dogco doesn't require ramp up, quote unquote, until like July, September every year, there is this really important trust building, audience building window of time for the summit, which also needs to be promoted, that's kind of at a different cadence. And that just isn't something I had been thinking about. Again, I think it's going to work out fine this year because we have a lot of people that like were already in my audience that want to come. But I also see from like a business perspective long term, I can't count on that every year because things will happen within my audience where not everybody can come. The summit's a huge investment. We took some really big swings this year. It might break even, but that's kind of where we're at. Like it might break even, and that's okay. Like it's something I do for the industry because I really believe in it. And because it makes sense with what Dogco does. Like it's not purely altruistic. It's definitely like helping people find out about Dogco and all these things. But I do want to have more visibility on it, both because I believe in it and I know that it needs to in the future to be sustainable. So tying this to your pet care business, Alex Ramosi has a cadence when it comes to giving and asking and audience building, where it's like give, 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 ask. So you should have a ratio of like 75% giving value, 25% asking. And because I have been so focused on delivery inside of my programs, now that I'm promoting the summit, that feels off balance to me. I feel like maybe 50-50, maybe 25% value, 75% ask. And that just doesn't feel good to me from both a value perspective, but also I don't think it's effective. I don't think it's an effective way to market. So I would think about that in terms of growing your pet care business socially, digitally. If every single post you're asking people to take an action, as in to like move forward, become a client, pay us money, commit to this thing, come to this conference, that is going to be a lot less effective than if you have proactively given more value so that you don't have to convince people this makes sense for you. They just know you and trust you and know what you do, and it makes sense. And so that needs to be a bigger focus for me going into this year, because I think the people that already know me, you get a little wiggle room there. It's like, oh, like I haven't seen Michelle post in a while, but I know her. I know the conference will be valuable. The summit will be valuable. People who don't know me, they just see a push to a summit and to spend money to come into this world. I don't know. I hope that was helpful. These are things I've been thinking about a lot the last 2 weeks. I've been traveling and just getting some time to reflect. So I appreciate the space to do that here. And I'd love to know what's been on your radar the first 4 months out of this year.